It's been a while since I posted a video on this channel. I've been very busy doing work on my house, and that has kind of taken precedent over everything else. I did a couple of videos, actually 3 videos, on my home reno channel. If you want to go check those out, there's a link in the description to that channel if you're not already subscribed. This one's going to be kind of random. I want to start it off by making a wooden wheel to replace the one that's broken on my compressor. When I moved it up here from down in that corner, I noticed what a pain it was to be rolling this wheel on, on one wheel. So this was broken right in the box. Like I had the rest of the wheel, but this was all that's left attached to the machine. Of course, when you buy something like that, that's bigger, actually, it's everything for me. If I buy it and it's defective, I generally keep it because I simply don't have the time to trot back to the store to get a replacement. So I didn't see the broken wheel as a big deal at the time. It's certainly not a big deal now, but if I want to move the compressor, it's a lot more convenient to have two. The axle for the wheel that came on the machine is a shoulder bolt, and that diameter is 1/2 inch, so I've got a 1/2 inch drill bit in my drill press, and I'll drill this inner hole. Check it to make sure it's good. That's good. You don't want it too tight. Go nice and smooth. At this point, I could take it and round over the corners a little bit to make it look a little bit better. I could also do some other things to reinforce it. The problem with a wheel like this is that it's weak this way. It could break off easier that way, or split even. On this compressor, that's not going to be an issue. Another problem with making a solid wood wheel is that it will expand and contract with seasonal changes. So what you wind up with is a oval shape at certain times of the year, but once again, that's not really a big issue for the compressor here, since I rarely move it. I am going to take the time to grease the inside of the axle hole with Vaseline. Vaseline is good stuff to have in the shop. I use it in a lot of places that guys use paste wax. I think that it works better than paste wax for most applications. The thing I find about paste wax is that it does allow things to slide, but then it has that initial catch where it's like it's almost stuck, and Vaseline doesn't do that. Hey, I take it for a test ride. I'm not going to go very far because I don't want to unplug it. And it works great. Now I can get it right into the corner. Very good. I thought I would do a bit of an update on the spindle sander thing. If you recall, I tried to swell. I actually did swell it. The only problem is that it didn't last very long. I had hopes that it would, but it didn't. It went right back to the same size. It might have actually gotten smaller, because you can see how loose this thing is. And I've determined that the best solution to this is to actually glue a piece of plywood on the top here. Here I've got 3/8 inch plywood cut in the disc that's slightly smaller than the drum itself, and I glued it on with epoxy. That's what I use. And what that does is gives this nut extra room to run, to push down, so that it'll actually crush the cylinder tight enough onto the sleeve so that it actually holds it in place. That was the problem I was having before. The nut was bottoming out on the shaft after turning it down 3/4 of an inch, and the thing would still slip right off, so not enough pressure. That is the solution. I did the same thing on this one right here, and I had already done it on this smaller one here, and that's the reason why I knew it would work. When you're making videos like this, you get people commenting on nearly everything. I even see people commenting on the types of pencils that people use. So I thought I would share with you my favorite pencil, and that is this guy right here. This is what's called a primary printer. These are made for kindergarten, you know, youngsters to try to write with. And the thing about these is it has a big, fat, really hard to break lead in the middle, so that they last a long time. They're a little bit expensive. I think it's $3 for a package of 2, and I got these at Staples. No, I'm not promoting the product, just giving a recommendation. If you want a really good pencil, this is the one to get. Onward, the next thing that I want to do is I want to get this plywood disc inside this half-used roll of tape, because I want to do something interesting with this roll of tape for another experiment. Get this in here to make sure that it doesn't collapse on me when I try to cut it down to size. Okay, mission accomplished, and no loss of life. This is probably not the most accurate tape you can have, but it will serve the purpose for which I want it. I gotta find the end of my roll of tape here because I want to wrap it around this 2-inch, I think it's 2-inch. Yeah, 2-inch dowel that I bought some time ago. I bought this actually to wrap wire around to try another steel threads experiment, but then I thought up this little idea kind of on the spur of the moment, and it involves cutting threads in the wood by hand actually. This next step is tedious. But that's the thing when you're doing things by hand. You're going to have some tedium. I got my hacksaw here with a fairly good blade in there. Make sure it's good and tight. And I'm just going to make a shallow cut right in the space between these strips of tape. It doesn't have to be very deep. Isn't this fun? This is how the real craftsmen do it, with hand tools. I've been very tempted to leave a comment on, say, one of Paul Sellers' videos saying if you're a real craftsman you'd use power tools, but I don't think that'll go over too well. I'm almost there. As tedious as this is, it doesn't hold a candle to what I have to do next. So. I have to be honest though, whenever I'm doing stuff like this these days, it was different when I was younger because I didn't need it, but now I see this as exercise, and it's something I really need. It's like when I'm out working on my house, climbing up and down that ladder. Wow, what a good workout that is. And I totally need it because I spend so much time sitting on my ass in front of the computer. It takes hours and hours and hours to edit videos, and it consumes a lot of my time because I put out quite a few videos. And I take my exercise where I can get it. Now comes the part that's going to take some time. In my hand is a tool that I especially made for this operation. There's not a whole lot to it. It's just a strip of pine actually. And I glued in 5 hacksaw blades with the middle one sticking up a little bit further than the rest. So yeah, it's gonna take a little bit of time, and it's gonna be a little bit of effort. I've got all the threads cut, and they turned out pretty good. I'm just taking the round file that I have here and cleaning them up a little bit. It's a bit difficult. Originally I was going to make this tool with like a saw handle on it, but then I got to thinking that maybe just a straight handle is better. But no, you really want a saw handle on this thing. Give you a better, more straight grip. If your hand is turned over like that, it wears out a lot faster. Not to mention that the end of it here is digging into my palm, and you know, for this much cutting, that's can be a painful thing. I'm just going to clean this up, and then I'm going to coat this with polyurethane. This is more or less a test, but I'm going to make something with it. You're not going to see that in this video because I'm quickly running out of time because I cover too many topics. But next time I'm going to make a nut for it. I haven't quite made up my mind how I'm going to make the nut. I may do what I would call the easy way, which is actually to hand carve it, or I might try to do it the more tricky way, which is to actually boil a strip of wood so that it softens up enough so that I can wrap it in around these threads to create the threads of the nut, and then glue it inside a bigger block. Very similar to the way I did the steel threads thing, where I wrapped that around, then I glued that into a block. I'll give that a couple hours to dry, and then I'll come back out and give it another coat. It's fairly warm in the shop, so it should dry pretty quickly.